So yeah, when the internet cut out and I was feeling that way, I started tapping my knees.
Okay.
Um, and sometimes I don't always feel like this, but sometimes I'm like, maybe this is happening this way, not for a reason, but it's just this is how it's unfolding, and it's a maybe that's
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to think about relational regulating and auto regulating, like
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
um,
And I felt protective, and I felt it's interesting in terms of my own dynamics. I was feeling like I should have ended it sooner. We shouldn't have, I just became protective and taking
mhm.
responsibility. And but for now, I'm wondering if you would be comfortable going back to the target just to check in with you and see how you're doing.
Yeah,
Would you be okay with that?
yeah.
So just when you go back to the original memory, what on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no disturbance and 10 being the highest you can imagine, what does it feel to you now? What does it feel to you now?
I would say 0.5 or 1.
Okay. And what do you think is keep when you notice that? What do you notice that might be keeping it at a 1, 0.5?
There's some sensation of like I feel this like downward energy in my face, which feels like sorrow, and that's still there. Um, when I think about this memory and how I feel right now.
You go with that?
Yeah.
What are you noticing now?
I was feeling like it's nice that Gail was feeling protective, and then I was like, then I went into this kind of vacillating space where I was like, but does that really have to do with me? And can any two people really know each other? And like these just went there.
Mm, go with that. What are you noticing now?
I was listening to this song on the way home by Nico Case, and there's this lyric where she says, I can't scrape together quite enough to ride the bus to the outskirts of the fact that I need love.
Mm, go with that. What are you noticing now?
I just had this thought and feeling like lately I've been feeling like love is where I don't expect to find it. It's there, but it's like with me and Casey when he visited. It's like almost like soil or something.
Mm,
Like it had to break down.
mm, go with that. What are you noticing now?
I was just thinking about this job that I had when I was about 19, I think. I had to go home from college because I was really depressed and like couldn't, I was so overwhelmed. And my therapist at the time was very good, and she was my first therapist, and she was the one who told me to get a job. And I was just thinking about that notion of like that I still have to function, like which is what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm. What was that? What are you noticing now?
I don't know if I agree or not. I can't tell. With the idea that you gotta function
Mm-hmm.
no matter what's going on.
Yeah, I had thought about wondering if that might have been something that happened even back at the time of this memory. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
What are you noticing?
I just was making this parallel between like me watching Casey's process of depression and like that fear that was hidden inside, and then thinking about my parents when I was really depressed and how my dad couldn't be present with me there. Um, like I tried to talk to him about how I was feeling and he just couldn't do it. And then my mom was really afraid, but she would go there with me. She would like show me her fear. Uh, she was more in touch with it. And
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't try to make my feelings go away at that time.
Mm-hmm. What was that? What are you noticing?
It's almost I've wondered about that time if that was like me trying to show them these parts of myself to see if it was okay, to see if I could be integrated like in that relationship. I've wondered about that. Like
Yeah.
that's like why that very like non-functional part of me showed up.
Yeah. Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Just that they it must have been very scary for them when I came home from college. They got a call from my therapist at school who was like, your daughter needs to come home. And I've never thought about how hard that must have been for them.
noticing?
I'm actually feeling really grateful towards them, which is new.
Good. Go with that. What do you notice?
Kind of the same, like noticing how I go back and wonder about that time, but I'm very emotionally cut off from it. It's like it happened to someone else.
Mhm. Go with that. What do you notice?
I just got distracted and was thinking about like later on today.
Yeah. When you go back to the original memory, what do you notice?
My first instinct is like I want to reach out to my mom and hug her. That's what I notice. But not in like a uh anxious do you love me kind of way, just like from me instead of it's like I want to do it, if that makes sense.
Go with that. Keep noticing that.
I was just thinking about that collage that I made at that time, and I was feeling like I don't know, like it was very like self-involved, and but also I judge myself, for different points of my process. So
Go with that. What do you notice now?
just wondering about like this really numb feeling I've had recently, the past couple weeks.
Mhm. Yeah. What are you wondering? What are you noticing in your body? What do you-
It's like where this feeling of like where am I? Like where have I gone? Where did my feelings go? Um like I don't feel totally alive, I guess.
Yeah. Let's go with that. What are you noticing now?
Just thinking about this friend that I had when I was little. I think she's come up before. She lived across the street and I was really close with her, but I was kind of like in charge in this way that now feels really weird. But I was older than her and I would trick her into doing stuff like calling boys and like I would um, convince her to make these moves in checkers and then a triple jumper. And I was like the one relationship where I was like the powerful one in my life. In all of my other relationships, I was the youngest, and I felt powerless, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What are you noticing?
I was noticing that being the wall that we talked about is my way of, or it's a way that I think I am in control because I don't have to like let people upset me. But it's not true, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes me feel like dead inside.
Go with that. What do you
I was
notice?
just thinking about this podcast I heard yesterday about the permafrost and how it's like this there's a tunnel that's bored into it so scientists can study what's in there, and it's like um as you walk back you can see what is preserved from like tens of thousands of years ago, and it's chronological, and it's melting so you could smell the melting rotting stuff, and I was just thinking how that this process
Mm-hmm.
is like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Go with that. What are you noticing now?
I'm noticing
Go with that.
that I wonder if my metaphorical brain is like an answer or if it's my authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can't tell.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Getting distracted and like thinking that the thing behind you is like a little stuffed animal or something in that chair.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I'm so sorry. Let's go with that. Um, let's go back to the original memory again.
Okay.
And yeah, okay. Back to the original memory, and what do you notice?
It's like I don't know, there's some discomfort, anxiety that I have around like I just feel a little squirmy. That's what I notice, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah. When you go back to the original memory, you the scale from 0 to 10, 0 being the lowest, no disturbance, and 10 being the highest you can imagine. How disturbing does it feel to you now?
Like a one or a two.
Okay. What do you feel? might be there that's kind of almost even increased a little bit since the last time we checked in?
Um, I mean, I guess it's just the realization that there's so much with this memory, like about my relationship with my mom, but also like me, the anxiety that I feel of trying to please other people, which is just feels
Mhm.
like keeps getting
Mhm.
goes down, and then and now that I'm feeling more, maybe that's part of it too, is like I was feeling pretty cut off from myself, my emotions, and now I'm feeling less numb, and so noticing more. Um, but there's also this like, so there's this positive charge to the memory where it's like, I want the little me to like get out and hug my mom, whereas before there was like this distance, but then that's making me feel squirmy. So
Yeah.
yeah. And just as an aside too, like, have you heard of the highly sensitive person thing?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I've been wondering about this because of the depth of processing piece,
Mm-hmm.
that when I read about that, it was such a relief to me because it really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's also like, I feel like I'm coming up against it with this process because we've been working on this memory for the whole time, which I guess in if I were seeing somebody weekly and doing it, that would not be it wouldn't be 8 months. It would be
Mm-hmm.
2 months. But it's still, I think I'm comparing myself to you, and I'm like, I haven't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was thinking as you go back to the memory, you're talking about the desire to hug your mom.
Mhm.
It sounds like there's a need there. What else? I mean, along with hugging her and reaching out to her, what else might you have needed?
I think I needed um like spontaneous joy in who I am, just for being instead of doing something, right? Like, does that make sense?
Can you go with that?
Yeah.
What are you noticing now?
It just kind of had some like um shivery feelings down my shoulders.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Um, just like what I learned about my needs and if it was okay to pay attention to them or not.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
No change.
No change.
Hmm.
Go with that.
Which is,
Mm-hmm.
my mind went to college and like how I did start doing a lot of things that felt just really fun just because I wanted to do them, and how spontaneous that was, and how like there was this one night where this guy that I kind of liked and I went to the science classroom, and they had these giant blackboards, and um there was these switches that would move them up and down so they could reveal the one behind it, and we sat on top of them, and somebody flicked the switch and we moved up towards the ceiling.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
I was just thinking about how my clinical director wants me to do a presentation with her on EMDR and Jungian psychotherapy.
Okay, go with that. Yeah. What are you noticing
I guess I was just thinking about this therapist that I saw a few years ago who I didn't find helpful.
here? Okay, go with that. Yeah. What are you noticing
I was just thinking about this client that I really care about, and I think I'm like a little bit I think I'm identified with her. She has that if I do everything right, people will like me thing, and
now?
just she's having these nightmares that seem really about that, like showing her mom a baby and her mom being mad because the baby wasn't what she wanted. Just thinking about her.
Yeah. Okay, go with that. What are you noticing
I was noticing how okay, so I have this pressure, this internal pressure to be done with this so that like it can be done and you will be able for it to finish. But then there's this underlying desire that I didn't tune into is that I don't want it to be done, which might be why it's not finishing.
Yeah, because if it's done, what does that mean?
It's like I don't know what's on the other side of it or something, and I also look forward to this a lot and like value the relationship part of it. So I think there's probably like just not knowing what will happen, but also liking. I think it's part of it is that I like the care.
Yeah, and I was thinking of continuing to identify things that you need and being able to, follow through with asking, Yeah, not
Yeah.
having to perform, being able to just be. There's a sense of vacillating between that as you're processing now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, go with that. Yeah, you're noticing
My mind went to my sister's porch when she lived in Chapel Hill, but I'm not sure why.
that. Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Definitely that I feel I felt a lot of pressure in that house and in that relationship to 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 perform and to do both. I think I was accurately getting that from her, but also from myself.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Just weird associations, and I was thinking of how my other sister calls me the queen of non sequiturs. So it's just thinking about that.
Go with that.
Just
What are you
noticing
noticing?
that I think the non sequitur thing is, I never realized this, but something that I do to keep people engaged because I don't trust that just being is enough.
Go with that.
Yeah, so that's happening in this relationship.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's part of, I think, what the associations are. Like, if
Right.
it doesn't get down to a zero, then we have to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it, yeah. Go with that. What are you noticing now?
I think I feel like I've been pretty arrogant recently with my clients of thinking like I know what's going on with them. Um, when I don't even know what's going on with myself because I just learned something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Go with that. What are you noticing now?
My mind is just kind of wandering to these roads that I drive every day near my house, like really there, like these
Mm-hmm.
places close down the street.
Mm-hmm. When you go back to the original memory, what do you notice?
It it feels far away, and I feel like some pressure in my head.
Okay, go with that. What do you notice in that?
Same pressure.
Go with that. What do you notice in now?
I was just having this like images of me as an adolescent being in a bathing suit, which was always like nerve-wracking, but also kind of exciting, and definitely a lot about what other people thought I should look like, and where I would have had no idea what I thought I should look like, bes- aside from what I guess culturally and what
Mm-hmm.
men would think I should look like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Go with that. What do you notice in now?
Um, Thinking about the swimming pool that was at the high school that I went to when I was little.
Mm-hmm. When you go back to the original memory, what do you notice?
It's that same sensation. It's like it feels far away, but I feel this kind of weird, like, head pressure.
Mm-hmm. If it had a shape, what shape would it be?
Like a balloon that where you can see like this the stretchy parts where it's tied. It's like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go with that. What are you noticing now?
I feel like chills, which is the same as last time, that after I felt that sensation I would have chills going down.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Some like creepy, eerie feelings coming up
Mm-hmm. Where do you notice them?
here.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Thinking about my basement when I was little, was a creepy, eerie place that I would run down to try to scare myself.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Some pressure, and then thinking about, yeah, like what was scary when I was little, like um shows that I would watch. And I I think I told you this, I would force myself to watch The Little Mermaid, even though Triton really scared me.
Mm-hmm. Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Just that still like creepy feeling and the tension.
Go with that. What are you noticing
I was just thinking that I think there's something about, we were talking about if I get down to a zero, what happens, and it's like then I am left alone, which is what I was afraid of when I was little, is being left alone with those feelings that I had, which were largely about my dad, I think. I didn't want to be left alone with those feelings,
now?
but I was. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
I was thinking about this memory that I'm pretty sure I've also told you about, where my dad asked me if I loved him, and we were like all in a hotel room, and I said I don't know, and I was like punished. Um, I just I could hear him and my mom talking about it, and he was really upset. And then the next day he wouldn't talk to me, and my mom didn't help me at all with that. I was
Mm-hmm.
just left to figure it out.
Yeah. What would you have liked to have heard?
That it's not okay to put that pressure on you. Yeah, like, and this isn't your fault.
Mm-hmm. Go with that. What are you noticing now?
This is where my righteous anger comes from, that I have in spades most of the time for the kids that I work with. Um, but lately I've just been feeling cut off from everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like right now it's certainly coming back. Huh?
Hmm.
Yeah. What are you noticing now?
I've been worrying about you and how much time you're spending on me.
Okay. Go with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. What are you noticing now?
No change.
Go with that. What are you noticing now?
Just noticing like how I get really just a lot of jumbled thoughts about like which ends in me wondering how I can know if what's true or what's right about a situation, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then just feeling kind of like dazed.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. When you go back to the original memory, what do you notice?
Feel tired.
You feel tired? Right. Well, we're going to need to get ready to end.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done a lot of hard work today. And I'm wondering what you may have learned about yourself for yourself.
I've learned that just how like many answers and how deep they are, and but that I guess I feel reassured that there's like in the past I felt like there's nothing underneath, and I feel like I know that that's not true. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that empty feeling is a defense instead of what's there. So that's helpful to realize.
Yeah. It's good. Yes, yes. It's so the processing we've done today may continue after the session. You may or may not notice new insights, thoughts, memories, or dreams, and if so, notice what you're experiencing. And if you wish, you can record it in the Memories and Minds log. Use the resources we've worked on to help manage any disturbance, and we can work on this material next time if necessary. You can call me.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna end the meeting or this. I'll stop recording and then
Okay.
I can send you.